Gary L. Thomas once said, "A mask partially conceals, but it also tells us that something is behind the mask." Hello, my name is Lauren Sumrall. I'm a sophomore biological science pre-med major studying at Pearl River Community College. Beginning in 2019, the coronavirus began to wreak havoc on the human race. The world's experts strongly urged government officials and medical professionals that wearing face masks was the first line of defense and one of the many precautions people could take to slow the virus's spread. A study by the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation revealed wearing a cloth or medical grade mask can reduce COVID-19 infections by at least 1/3. As a college student and member of a relatively small community, I find that masks are at the center of controversy almost everywhere I go. I'd like to tell you a short story about a woman who brings 4 face masks to work with her every single day. Her profession entails her sweating and manual labor, so when she sweats, she changes her mask because she has a new one. Even with changing her mask 4 times a day, she still contracted a bacterial infection on her face. So a question came to me: are face masks hiding more than our faces? My research aims to determine if a face mask worn daily without disinfectant measures is a good medium for microbial growth, specifically bacteria and fungi. In another study conducted by Duke University, researchers confirmed that the fitted N95 was, quote, king against the fight against COVID-19. But conversely, the study's biggest loser was the neck Gator Mask, which the study cited was too thin to offer any real protection because it actually breaks up the particles into smaller particles that remain airborne for much longer. However, Duke concluded that wearing a mask is still the best defense against COVID-19. So what is your mask hiding? The 3 most common types of masks that I see day to day are cotton masks, medical grade masks, and Gator masks. Hence my decision to test each of these types to see if they're hiding any bacterial growth after a 1-day wear and a 5-day wear, with 1 day equaling 7 consecutive hours. I ordered a 3 count of each type, and I ordered it online instead of purchasing from a store to limit the possibility of contamination. Upon arrival, each face mask was individually sealed, and one of each type was selected and opened, followed immediately by a sterile swab onto a petri dish, producing the control groups that you see here. There was no bacterial or fungal growth, no growth at all, so the experiment could begin. I wore each mask on separate days, the medical grade, the Gator, and the cotton mask for 7 consecutive hours. After the wear time was completed, they were individually sealed in a plastic bag to avoid any contamination, until each could be swabbed and cultured in an incubator for 4 days. And my results, they were pretty surprising. The first slide that you see is the medical grade. There are 7 visible colonies, each of the arrows denoting a colony. This was after 4 days of incubation, and if you can see that there's a yellow color and a white color, that denotes a different type of bacterial growth. The next you'll see is the Gator Mask. This was also worn 1 day for 7 hours and had 4 days of incubation. There was 1 large colony at the top that you'll see denoted by the very large arrow, and then there were 7 smaller visible colonies, but nothing too scary. The next one is the 100% cotton. This was after 1 day wear and 4 days of incubation. There are a dark yellow, a light yellow, which is the largest colony that you see, and then much smaller, clear, white colonies that were beginning to form. There were so many it was almost unable for us to count, so I estimated over 50 colonies. The second phase of this experiment involved the same types of face masks, each new and unopened, subjected to 5 consecutive day wear, with the mask only being individually placed in a plastic Ziploc bag at the end of the 5th day. So the Ziploc bags were only opened at the time the samples were taken, and each petri dish was left to culture for 4 days, just as in the previous phase. The first you'll see is the medical grade. There were 2 medium-sized yellow bacterial colonies and 1 large white motile colony. You can see as it appears a bit furry, it's a motile colony. I expected a lot more smaller colonies, as in we saw in the one day. However, I've come to the conclusion that the bacteria have actually congregated and grown together. The next you'll see is the cotton mask, which was the most significant in the first phase. There are 2 large motile colonies and then 1 smaller yellow colony. And remember, the different colors denote different types of bacteria. And lastly, the most surprising to me was the net gator mask. As I mentioned earlier, the net gator mask takes the particles and actually makes them into smaller particles that remain airborne much longer. If you were to take each of those individual colonies, every single one of those little dots, and put them together, I believe that there would be even more bacterial growth in this type of mask than in any of the others. Through my research, I have found that these 3 types of masks, worn for 5 consecutive days without disinfectant measures, will lead to obvious microbial growth. An assumption that I would like to make is that any mask worn for an extended period of time will develop bacterial growth due to the body's normal bacteria in the mouth and on the skin's surface. Even though the 5-day Gator mask did not contain clusters of bacteria, it still contained just as much, if not more, bacterial growth than other masks. The antimicrobial Gator mask only disperses the bacteria instead of mitigating its growth. A recommendation for future research on this topic could be done by experimenting with other types of face masks, experimenting with disinfectant methods, determining the types of bacterial or fungal growth from cultures, and the effects of oral and dermal hygiene on microbial growth. Further research is not only warranted, it is necessary. Thank you.